Thank you, Tara. Oh, all good. All right. So speaking of people who do not naturally have that skill, hi. So my name is James Berg. I'm a senior technical program manager at Xbox over on the platform side. Prior to that, I spent about 15 years at EA making games and roles such as QA, but a decade in research and several years specific to accessibility. All right, this is the old version of the talk. Oh, this will be exciting. Okay. All right. We are currently experiencing the expected technical problems. We have trained professionals ready for this.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Okay. The old version of this was close enough to the new version. It was just more rambly. Slides will be available. There is no point form summary. That is a lie. Mostly because it's short enough that it doesn't need it, I hope. Visuals on the slides. I will tell you if anything is important. They are mostly a desperate attempt at keeping my ADHD brain on topic. Finally, warning, there is some heavy stuff here. Okay, no joke. I know that's unusual for GAconf. We do some kind of heavy poking at trauma. I have tried to mix that up, do some light poking at trauma, but we are going to be hitting some sensitive spots here. So my original working title for this talk was Good News, It's Your Fault. It occurred to me at some point that the second sentence there might get a little bit more attention than the first. And fortunately, I made some adjustments because it's not like Ian or Tara would have stopped me from running with that. So what are we going to cover? Two things. Welcome to Game Dev. I'm going to give you some basic introductory information for folks coming from an accessibility background, especially. You don't get told much when you actually make it to the industry about how to do this effectively. I'm going to hopefully bridge some of that gap. Second is I've kind of combined these two sections. Why good things don't happen. It's production problems or production reasons, and some good news. These are the things that are your fault. First off, though, if you have made it, if you have done the mighty struggle of getting into game dev, thank you. And I'm going to borrow from Fallout Boy here now that I work at Xbox. Welcome home. Okay. Genuinely and truly, we need your efforts, your time, your talent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So now that you're here, let's get you to work. There are three core things to work effectively with developers that you're going to need. One, you're going to need domain knowledge. For most folks, this will be accessibility and disability related. Second, you're going to need to understand game design. These are the things that you are looking to change. If you don't understand what you are looking to change, what are you doing? Third, most importantly, production. You need to understand games production. If you are now hoping that I'm going to explain what production even is, let alone why it's the most important, you are in luck. That's mostly what we're going to talk about here today. Nervous laughter indicates you are also not alone. Okay, what is production? These are things like decisions, processes, how those get determined, who gets to change them, why they change, why do they change so often, the effect of budgeting, how scheduling works, dependencies, who are dependencies, why do they hate us so much? These are all the just normal, banal reasons that things end up getting cut in game dev, and processes that you run afoul of, even if you don't know it. Something I want to remind folks is if you're on the outside providing reviews, if you are a content creator, if you're a journalist, if you are doing consulting, once your feedback makes it to the game team, it's in their world now. If you are on the inside of this process, you can understand that. But if you're on the outside, you don't get to see that. All of these things, these are what actually end up impacting whether or not your great idea makes it into the game. So there are a variety of sources for learning game dev. New slide, which I will link after the talk, will have more of these listed. I found some better sources, or not better, but additional sources. GDC Vault is really good for game dev talks. There's a bunch of other peer conferences, game devs talking to game devs. Game Maker's Toolkit on YouTube. 3 separate words, Game Makers Toolkit, really good for design related resources. Our sister summit, the Games You Are Summit, we don't run at the same time anymore, but there's lots of information there that ties very directly to accessibility, because a lot of folks that are in accessibility now came from games user research. Third, this is becoming less true, but Twitter used to be a really good source for actual genuine information from game devs, folks changing, like sharing information and stuff. Maybe start with the first 3, and there's a reason this one got removed. So why didn't they do the thing? I want to give some warning if you are looking for advice about game production processes online. Please don't just throw that into a Google search. Okay, no. Nobody take pictures of this. Stop. No, this is terrible. These are the bad things. Okay, these games are going to the bad place. Okay, I'm going to make fun of the one at the top there. If you are making your game and then you are testing it, your game deserves to go to the bad place. Here's what's really disappointing. I searched game development cycle just from like an incognito browser. 24 of the first 29 results had nonsense like this. Okay, if you study that third one closely, it's fascinating. Look at where Game Engine is. It's towards the end of production. Okay, please don't Google search and just like trust the information that you're going to find. Look for peer review conferences. And if you can't find what you're looking for, ask a developer. If you need to, email me. I will find you something that will not actively make you worse at your job. Okay. So, no, we're not going to talk about that. Oh boy. These are really, I emailed completely the wrong thing to Tara. This is my fault, not hers. You will never hear that sentence again. Okay, the slides will be less useful than even intended. All right, so we are going to talk about 3 core challenges. These are what I prefer to call rake accelerants. Stepping on a rake is inherently just kind of funny, and it's less threatening than why are you doing the wrong thing and doing your job badly? Technically, stepping on a rake is your fault. You step on the tines, it hits you in the face. But also, why is there a rake on the ground? Why is that a thing? That's just, I don't know. I've always found that odd. This is a very weird cultural touchstone. There are some specific things that you can do to improve what you are going to be, to improve the odds, at least, of your impact working with game devs. Be effective, you're going to need to do 4 key things. You're going to need to have the right thing, the right idea, the right change, whatever. It's going to need to go to the right people at the right time with the right approach. Okay. If you are wondering what a bunch of thoughts regarding what that might look like, here you go. These are not well organized yet. I will, as a reminder, will provide the proper deck at the end. So 3 main things. One is going to be the difference between your intent and your impact. Okay. Those are not the same thing. In advocacy, intent matters a whole lot. In game dev, it does not matter at all. What matters is your impact. Say you are providing a report. They've asked you or the community for information about how to make something more accessible. Some person provides a report that is a 30-page treatise detailing everything that could possibly be known about the subject. That might be phenomenal. That might be solid gold. If your dev has time to read half a page and you give them 30, your impact is 0. They are not going to go through that 30-page thing to find half a page worth of really good information. That just goes into the trash. Okay. Second, you might provide a summary. This might be very easy for them to read, can be really good, might not have all the information that you want it to, but your odds of having impact there are pretty good. Might not be the largest impact you could have, but it's likely to get used. That second one, that's a 60th of the size, much better, actual impact. Third option would be providing a summary and then a bunch of information about kind of the things that go on in the summary, right? So you provide basically a list of topics that you can threaten them with info dumps about. Now, the risk to providing that third one, especially if this is a case where you're not going to get to have a chance to talk in detail with the devs, is that you're throwing something over the wall. They may take that as all the information that is available, everything you know, right? It needs to be included in that report. If you are including everything that you know, it's probably going to end up looking a lot like that first report. You're really banking on them using that summary to identify what's actually going to be useful and used, and then to pass that on. When you're providing information to game devs, something that I want you to remember, if you are talking to someone that is not going to either approve the solution or it's not going to approve whatever is going to solve the problem, or is not the person that is going to solve the problem, your goal is not to explain the solution to that person. They can't do anything with it other than pass it on to the next person in the chain. Your goal is to get in contact or get your information to the people that are actually going to use it. So when you're communicating with devs directly, if you have that opportunity, consider that your message, what you are sending to them, the goal is not necessarily here's the solution. The goal is here's something that is going to be useful and helping them understand how it's going to be useful. Once you get to the right people, great. That's when you actually want to be sharing that payload of information. So generally, when you've got three options, one, big giant info dump, that is very rarely the right solution. Us neurodivergents, we love that solution. I've tried it many times. It has rarely worked. Second, providing just a brief summary, right? Tell them what you could tell them and then be prepared to do that. But that's usually going to be the most effective one. Third, summary, and then all the additional information. Okay. So that's the first key thing. Second, do we have it on here? Okay. Identifying issues versus proposing solutions. This one might be a bit tough for folks to hear. I apologize if that is the case. My intent here is not to be insulting or talking down to anyone or anything like that. But it is very common when talking to game devs, not just for accessibility, but for everything else as well, is to jump straight to the solution, right? You need to do this thing. Why? The why is the important thing, right? If you are trying to get a developer to provide a really good solution for addressing color vision deficiency, color blindness, if you tell the devs, you know what, you need to implement the battlefield filter system, you're telling them a solution that might work for what you need. But here's the thing, if that's all you're giving them, you're not explaining what the problem is. The problem might be, you know what, your team colors, I can't differentiate between them because I have protanopia or deuteranopia. If you aren't telling them what the problem is, you're risking several things. One, what you're proposing might not actually be a good idea for that solution or for that problem. You might not know all of the reasons that that's not a good idea. Your dev team will. If you just propose a solution and it turns out that that solution is bad, going back to impact, you had no impact. In fact, you've had a negative impact. You've spent their time considering a solution that wouldn't work. Another reason, if you suggest something that's really big and complicated, that's going to have a lot of dependencies, okay? When you suggest an idea, maybe it goes to a designer. Designer does their job, it goes to engineering. Then from engineering, it might go to art, UI, audio. From there, it's then going to go to QA. QA is going to break it over their knee, send bugs back to all those people. Those bugs need to be addressed. Then it comes out, producer is going to sign off on it. Then it's a thing in the game. If at any point in that chain, something can't be done, maybe somebody runs out of time. Audio just doesn't have time. You've run into a production dependency. and your idea is not going to go into the game. If audio just can't do their thing, bummer, it got cut. This happens all the time. Good ideas don't always make it into the game just because they're good ideas. They need to be actionable. They need to be doable by the team. So if you are telling them, here's the problem, here's a good detailed explanation of what you need to solve, that gives them the opportunity, A, they might come up with a better solution than you did, right? A solution that I might give, well, maybe they've got a better one. That's how we iterate. That's how we get better solutions as an industry overall. 2, they're going to find something that is more likely to work within their production schedule, within their dependencies. They're going to know that actually, you know what? UI team is slammed. Like, we have no space from here until A2. If you're suggesting something that doesn't work within that, strong likelihood that that doesn't go ahead. So try and focus really hard on the issues, on the problems, not on the actual solution itself. Okay. Third piece, raising the floor before raising the roof. What I mean by this is the minimum quality of your work is much more important than the maximum quality of your work. If you are unreliable, if you provide really great work, but you're frequently missing deadlines or even occasionally missing deadlines, do you remember those things about dependencies? If your thing is late, your designer gets it late, maybe they don't have time. Maybe they get it late, they finish their thing, but it's late, engineering doesn't have time. You lost your feature because of dependencies. Second, trust and confidence are very hard to build, very easy to lose, okay? There'll be a whole lot of folks that are like, man, this presentation is nonsense. Does he know what he's talking about? This has nothing to do with my knowledge. It has to do with me accidentally sending Tara the wrong thing. Thanks, ADHD. Okay. This stuff, when this shows up in your work, you're going to run into the same challenges. Okay. Very good example. I had a moderator when I was running research on a project with a bunch of shooter devs. I don't want to be too specific here. Sat down with a design meeting for a research study. One of the very first questions my moderator asked, because he was looking at some information on slides, was what's FPS mean? In that context, it meant first-person shooter. This was a meeting with designers to talk about game design for their shooter. I watched the confidence my devs had in that moderator bleed out onto the floor and disappear in real time. Was it a good question? Yeah, it was. If he would have asked it of me in private, I could have helped get him up to speed. Instead, he basically told the devs, I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to your design. He gave them a reason to distrust them. Could he have actually done his job and done it well? Yeah, that's why I had him there. But the devs weren't going to trust that anymore. Very easy to build. Oh, sorry, very hard to build, very easy to lose. Finally, don't stretch yourself too thin. This is another really common challenge with folks coming in, especially from advocacy. We want to do all of the things, help all of the people all of the time, and you can't. Or if you can, please, you need to be up here instead of me. Tell us your secrets, okay? Almost nobody can do this. Pick your battles, make sure they're the right ones. Try and stop touching things.
Your battery's low.
All of the, is that working? Is that working? Okay. Everyone else today should be fine. I'm just absorbing all of the bad luck. Or this is karma. To be honest, that would be fair. Okay, here's some just like additional random rakes that people step on quite a bit. One, obvious things. If you look at a problem, or if you look at a solution and it hasn't been done and it's obvious, do you know what it probably isn't? Obvious. If you can see it, so can your devs. A really good way to burn that credibility is to go into a room with people that understand why that can't be done and confidently explain to them why they should do that thing. If you had instead gone in and been like, hey, we've got this challenge. I noticed this, the obvious thing, they can be like, oh yeah, don't even get us started. That's like hard coded in, and like there is 17 weeks worth of work to fix that obvious thing. Go in with just a smidgen of humility and ask. Don't assume that anything is obvious. I wish the internet would understand this, but it will never do so. Second, good enough is. It is good enough. It's kind of like right there in the name. Chasing perfection is a very common challenge for folks working in accessibility. We want the best solution. Again, we have very good intentions. We want the best solution, the best experience for our players, the most accessible thing. If you have time to do that, awesome. Go for it. Please. Be the game that makes us forget that The Last of Us 2 is even a thing. Okay. That would be fantastic. For the rest of us living in reality, good enough is good enough. Okay. If it's not good enough, and I do mean good enough, if it's like a bad solution that's not actually going to solve the solution or solve the issues, that is not good enough. I do not mean accept poor quality, but you don't have to push for the best all of the time. Third, scope creep. This also is really common. Once you get in there, once you start getting listened to, once you are in those meetings and you're able to pitch things and you're able to be a part of the collaborative team, be very mindful of scope creep. The goal of a game to ship, or the goal of your devs, is to ship their game. The goal of your devs is probably not to make the most accessible thing possible. If you recall, I said there were 4 things that you need to do, four ideas that I hope will work to make you successful. The right things with the right people at the right time with the right approach. Scope creep is going to attack all of those. Okay. It is very common in game dev, not just accessibility. Fight it at all costs. Okay. Your game can ship with bad tech, bad design. If you remember the 3 pillars, I said you needed good knowledge of accessibility, good knowledge of game design, good knowledge of production, or as best as you can get. Your game can ship without those first 2. Bad design, bad tech. We could all name games that resemble that. I won't, because that'd be rude. No accessibility. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. But no production, all of those concerns, all of the boring, banal concerns of production, that's where scope creep comes in. If you start trying to make your idea too big, again, chasing perfection, very likely to run into those scope creep issues. Third, overstating severity. This one's hard. It is very, very difficult to accurately assess the impact of being inaccessible, right? It's very hard to assess how much needs to change to make something accessible. That is really hard for experts that have a lot of experience in the industry and in accessibility. If you're just starting out and you're telling people everything is absolutely like the highest priority, everything is the biggest problem, this absolutely needs to be solved. This needs to be solved in a perfect way. You are going to burn credibility with your dev team faster than you can imagine. The process of making a game is fitting 15 tons of nonsense into a 10-ton container. You need to cut a lot, and game dev nonsense is very dense. Okay, stuff is going to get cut. If you are constantly saying that your stuff is absolutely required and it can't be cut or reduced in scope, that's generally not going to work. Okay, some stuff genuinely will be absolutely needed. Good enough is good enough. Don't accept lower than that bar, but be prepared to lose stuff that's above that bar. If you're overstating your severity, if you're saying this needs the full presentation, or this needs a huge amount of work and effort, you're making that a target for getting cut. Try and work with your devs to identify what that good enough looks like and slim it down to there. All right. Okay. Being right is overrated. I'm just going to leave this here so folks aren't looking at the garbage on the slides. Okay. Being right is overrated. For some of us, that's very good news. Others, maybe not so much. That one took a second. Okay. What matters actually, you know what? I'll share this as a story. I got some really good advice from a truly terrible human being, but it has been very effective at making me effective. What they told me was, James, you jump into a problem like a group trying to solve a solution or trying to solve a problem. You jump in with the solution or like some really strong ideas about what things are, and you just smash that down. Very efficient. And everyone else feels like crap because I used to jump in and just absolutely go hard on solving that problem. Someone gets halfway through a bad idea. I was less than diplomatic sometimes in my approach of explaining why that idea wouldn't work. Very effective at solving the problem, but the end result, I was less effective with that group because people knew coming into a meeting, like, I'm just going to smash stuff with a hammer. The advice I got was that my goal for coming out of that meeting should be having better relationships with everyone in that meeting, not solving the problem. What did that result in? We still solved the problem. I was in a meeting with a bunch of smart folks, but when I was focused on improving the relationships, when I was focused on keeping that as my goal, we got both. When you're coming in, especially from advocacy, there can be a very strong desire to really focus in on just what the problems are and just on what the solutions are. And you are going to care a lot and be very invested in that. When you do that, don't make the same mistake I did. Still sometimes do. Focus on the relationships. Focus on building up that trust, that confidence. Build up your relationships with your dev team. Over the long run, you'll have a much, much better time. All right. I am out of time. I very much apologize for the complete nonsense slides. I will throw those up in Discord so folks can go back and see that I can, in fact, create a complete, not nonsense presentation. I hope that your confidence in me will not be utterly destroyed. Man. All right. So like I said, good news. Some things are your fault. I really wish this was intentional, but I'm not that clever. All right, Tara. Oh, wait, was that my 5-minute warning? Can I? All right.
I mean, now, okay. I mean, now you're at 3.5-minute warning.
Oh, wait. Okay. Ooh, let's see if there's more nonsense. Let's see what else is in here. Decision maker. Okay. Being right is overrated. I didn't go into that very much. Fun fact, if you are working with your dev team and the person that you are working with has decided that you are wrong and they are the decision maker, guess what you are? You're wrong. Does it matter that you're actually right and you can prove it and here's my 30-page treatise? Probably not. This happens rarely. The stronger you build relationships with your team, the less it's going to happen. The less folks are going to come in and feel the need to assert authority and stuff like that. But it will happen. Okay, if you work at this stuff for long enough, you're going to find people that are just in a political situation, a social situation, or they're just jerks. They aren't going to want to listen. I have seen so many folks that care a lot about stuff waste so much time and energy and political capital trying to convince these people. If you have the ability, let it go. Follow your inner Elsa. Let it go. Focus on something else. Maybe you'll win. Usually you won't. As I said before, good enough is good enough. If they aren't going to completely tank things by being wrong, stupid and frustrating, let it go. Focus your energy on something else. All right, that was people sometimes suck as well. Inaccurate beliefs around demographics. We've done a lot of talks at the conference. There's lots of information about there about how to convince people to make their games accessible. The key one idea advice that I give on this subject: when you are working with devs, you want to make sure that they believe that your goal aligns with theirs, and that is to ship the game that they want to ship. If they think you want to change their game, you want to make it different, and you want to make it different in a bad way, sometimes you get lucky, they think you want to make it different in a good way. Usually not. If your goals don't align with theirs, especially if they have some interesting beliefs about the prevalence of disability, it's about 30% for most people, FYI, you're not going to have a good time. When you are working with devs, try and make sure that your goals align with theirs, right? You want to make something more accessible so that more people can experience their intended design. The laptop just blue screened. Honestly, I kind of wish that would have happened like 30 minutes ago, but okay. Oh boy, what a day, what a day. Okay, where was I? Devs that suck. Okay, if you need, or when you're describing what you want to do, try and describe it even in the words you're using, the language you're using. Talk about it in a way that aligns with what they're describing, what their goals are. You want them to believe that you're there to help. Okay, now I'm getting the final wrap it up. I don't know what's going to happen with this thing, but I'm just going to not touch things and back slowly away. I will throw up the actual presentation as soon as I can. If folks have questions, if you're not sure, if you need some advice on this kind of stuff, please feel to reach out to me, other folks in the community on Discord. There is a tremendous amount of experience for folks that are very, very eager to help you succeed. Mindful of your NDAs, but beyond that, we would love to help you and give advice and such where we can. Thank you very much.